is a concept that was brought up a lot in third edition. It's called niche protection. Not niche protection, niche
Niche
protection. Yeah.
we need protection from him.
So no, we got no questions.
I don't think we have any questions. Do we want to talk about alignment?
Sure. Alignment was brought up, and we've talked a little bit about it before. So, alignment, ignore it. That was easy. No. So alignment is a thing that used to be a lot more important in D&D. And the oldest roots of Dungeons and Dragons are like pulp fantasy and also some of the sort of weird fantasy that was coming out in the 50s and 60s. And I believe it's Moorcock Moorcock's world has this war between the forces of law with a big L and the forces of chaos with a big C. Right. And in the first edition D&D stuff, you can still see that. Like they keep on the Borderlands as written. The fortress is a fortress of law that is on the edge of the Borderlands to the lands of chaos.
Oh.
Right. And your job is to help the defenders of law fight the forces of chaos.
Gotcha.
And as the game evolved, you had the side of law and the side of chaos, which are kind of like, the Horde and the Alliance in Warcraft or whatever, right? And then people were like, yeah, but what about like good and evil? So somewhere along the line,
what? Why?
Gygax or somebody is like, okay, so we've got this double axis of good and evil, law and chaos, or good.
Put yourself somewhere in there, and that became much more of an influence, especially in like 3E, where
second edition was where alignment was very important, and late first edition, second edition, because characters like paladins could only be lawful good.
Oh,
right. Assassins could only be some form of evil.
Yeah.
Rangers could only be good. There were all these stuff built around alignment.
That is annoying.
Yeah, and if the DM felt like your character was not playing according to their professed alignment, the DM could say your alignment changed, and that might lock you out of your chosen class, at which point you would lose like ability to access those class levels and stuff. And it became, among the kind of DM who likes yanking their players' chains. I don't recommend that if you're a DM. Stop it.
Don't
right
do
now.
it.
But there's always some asshole who wants to torment players. Like they get off on being powerful that way. So what became a thing was like baiting the paladin into falling, tempting the paladin to stray from being lawful good, so you could go, aha, you're screwed now.
Now you're evil. Congratulations.
Yeah. And, there were paladins being lawful good had all these restrictions about, they had to like give away like at least 10% of all their treasure to a church, and they couldn't like hang out with thieves and things like that. So that evolved into the lawful stupid paladin who was like, well, I sure am glad that my friend here who wears leather and hangs out in the shadows all the time is an upstanding fighter who doesn't steal anything.
No, not at all. Nope.
While I'm looking in this direction, and yeah, so when third edition came, they started trying to weed that out.
There was definitely less of that. I do remember there was still like monks still had to be lawful.
Monks still had to be lawful, and paladins still had to be. I think they still had to be lawful good.
Lawful good, yeah.
Yeah, and that was a result of feedback from playtesting.
Druids had to be neutral.
Yeah. Originally, they were going to leave all that stuff out, but the playtesters of third edition were like, no, this is too different. I want my lawful good paladins. So they left it in. And as third edition evolved, people got to be more like this is a pain. This
This
isn't
is
adding
sucks.
any fun.
So now in 5th
So
edition, you can ignore it completely. There are no
yeah,
restrictions at all to any class related to alignment. It's a
and
thing.
you have Eberron to thank for that. Actually, um, I I forget the author's name of the Eberron books now. I'm blanking on his name. But when he wrote Eberron, he was very explicit about alignment still exists if you want it for like detect evil spells and things like that, but it's not really a thing. Like you could have traditionally metallic dragons were good, chromatic dragons, the red, black, blue, etc. were evil.
They don't have to be anymore.
Yeah. In Eberron, no.
No,
The dragon has his abilities and he has his personality.
dragons
You
have independent personalities too, you
yeah.
know.
You can't depend on a gold dragon being good and a red dragon being evil. It could be anything. So yeah, so yes, Keith Baker, built that into Eberron, and everybody saw, wow, this just works so much better. And so alignment still is there as a vestige, but most people more or less ignore it anymore.
It's more like a something you use to relate to your personality. Like I go back to Swiftstorm's personality and say she's neutral good. Well, she is generally good in that her personality is that she's generally wants to help other people and generally wants to do good things. But she is also neutral in that she is unattached to things. She's not attached to law or chaos, or
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
works on her own whim in regards to how she does good.
Yeah, alignment is still a handy shorthand, a handy descriptor. And alignment still applies on a cosmic level. Like angels are good with a capital G and devils are evil with a capital E, right? But a good character or an evil character, that's just how you describe them. It's not as
Yeah.
much source for creatures.
So we did have a question in the chat now. Multiclassing. Yes or no?
Yeah. Yes or no? It depends entirely on what you want. National release of Dungeons and Dragons in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
The factory that was making the dice couldn't keep up with demand. So halfway through the original edition of Dungeons and Dragons, they ran out of dice because the dice were included in the box. Because unless you were a university student, it was real hard to get a hold of polyhedral dice because there weren't game stores all over the country. So what they did was, and I had the ran out of dice edition of this boxed set. Okay, that was my introduction to the end. What they did was they had a sheet of a cardboard sheet of little square counters called chits. You hear things referred to as chits. They're just little game counters. And they were numbered 1 to 20, 1 to 12, 1 to 8, 1 to 10, 1 to 4.
You pull one from a hat?
No, you put them, you tore them all off of the thing, you put them in the box, and when you needed to roll a die 20, you pulled out a chit, and the number on the chit was what you rolled. And so that was
Oh,
a
no.
fun little era. Yeah, it was terrible. I mean,
I don't like it.
yeah. Now, can you imagine taking that and rolling 5d6 for a fireball?